Let me ask you something. Are you getting everything out of your rent-to-own business? If you're not an A-Pro member, then the answer is probably no. Look, advocacy is A-Pro's bread and butter. This is why they were created and what they do best. But here's the thing. A-Pro membership is about way more than advocacy. A-Pro connects you to the movers and the shakers of the industry. People who've been there, done that, and they can help you do it even better. A-Pro's monthly webinars give you expert insights and actionable takeaways. It's like having a masterclass for your business every single month. Got questions about complex regulations or sticky situations? No problem. A-Pro's legal hotline gives you direct access to experts who have got the answers. That's a peace of mind that you can't put a price on. And let's not forget the resources, news, updates, and tools that keep you ahead of the curve. Scholarships for your team? Check. Disaster relief when you need it most? Double check. A-Pro is your ultimate support system in the rent-to-own world. So stop settling for less. With A-Pro, members get more. More support, more connections, and more success. Head over to rtohq.org and join the A-Pro family today. Because in this business, more isn't just better. It's essential. See you at the top with A-Pro.
And welcome to the RTO Show with Danny and Pete. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm your host, Pete. And today we're going to talk about some interview questions that you need to ask to get the best candidate for your company. But first off, we're going to go into our sponsor, Unlimited Marketing Solutions. Unlimited Marketing Solutions is a social media marketing company that can market directly to your specific customer base and provide solid and trackable results. Unlimited Marketing Solutions also do extremely flexible payment options to meet your unique needs and budget and are currently running a promotion for a 10% discount off of your first 6 months of marketing when you mention the code RTO Show. That's RTOSHOW when you call them at 352-553-3245. That's 352-553-3245. You can also email them at unlimitedmarketingsolutions.llc@gmail.com. Now, Danny, we were talking about how to get the great people on. That's a big thing going on right now. People need to be hired. We got to bring on the right talent. After we had our show about retain or replace, let's say that we went with the replace. Now we got to replace them with somebody that we need. So we're out there. We're getting these interviews done. What are some of the best questions that we can come up with to kind of help qualify these new hires? And I think we've come up with some really good questions that might be something that we want to put forward to find out, to get to know these people better, to see if they're the right kind of candidates for the job.
Absolutely. And we've been doing this for a long time, Pete. We interview a lot. We go to job fairs. We are on Indeed. We're on Yelp. We're on everything you can think of to recruit. Always recruiting, passing out business cards. And of course, the objective is to at least get them interested, to call, phone interviews, and then actually show up to the interviews. But then, yeah, we need to be prepared, and we need to know more than do you have a pulse or a driver's license, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we need to ask some sincere questions. Are you the right person? Guys, real quick, before we get into these, we got 10 great questions for you. We're going to go over them all with you, give you some tips. But before, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. You can go on Spotify, Apple Music, click that plus button link to follow us so you don't miss an episode moving forward. We do post every Monday, our full episode. But getting into the interview questions, Pete, I try to start off very casual. I want my applicant to feel nervous. Anybody that comes to an interview, even me included, everybody, you get a little nervous. I want to say the right thing. I want to look like I know what I'm talking about. Good impression, right? You want to make the best impression, but you're nervous. Everyone gets nervous. So what I like to do is always try to eliminate that nervousness and make them feel super comfortable with me. And my very first question is simple. Tell me about yourself. Tell me something that's not on your resume. Because 9 out of 10 times when you ask that question, they'll immediately go, oh, well, I've done this. And, well, that's great. We're going to get to that. But just tell me about you. Who's Pete? Who are you? Tell me about yourself.
I'm a lovable guy.
What do you like to do? I think you are. What do you like to do for fun? What's your ambition? What's your goals? I want to know the person, because the person, if I hire, is who's going to be coming working for me. Don't you agree?
I think that when you're having those things and you set them up for, hey, tell me about yourself, the one thing that you can do as an interviewer is make sure that you smile. Make sure that you take the tense feeling out of the room and give them a chance to relax just a little bit. Now, of course, you always have to keep the professionalism because you want them to know, yes, you are going to be working for me or somebody in my company. I want you to always respect that. But at the same time, and we're all human, don't go in there and sometimes we've interviewed people. I think you and I have done that. And sometimes we forget who we are and we're just like normal people. We're just sitting there and they get all nervous. Oh my God, I'm sitting in front of the two DMs that I'm going to work for. And it's like, first off, breathe, relax. It's all good. hey, at the end of this, what's the worst that can happen? We don't bring you on. It's not the end of the world. What I want to do is get to know you, because I don't want to get to know the person that you're bringing to the interview room. And then I think that's who I'm getting. And then I find out that you're a whole different person because you came with that 1 foot forward, but I don't know who you really are.
Right. And you want to make sure the important thing of this question of tell me about yourself is you want to try to determine if this individual's core values matches your core values and the company's core values, because that goes a long way in the culture of your business. All right. So what do you have for question number 2, Pete? Because I got them comfortable now, The
second question is, are you an independent worker or do you perform better in a team setting? And the reason I want to know that is depending on the position that you're going to take on, you could do a lot of different things. And you want somebody who is a forward thinker and can handle being on their feet. But salespeople sometimes have a tendency of being out there on their own, right? They do their own things. They're making sales calls. They're talking to people individually. They're handling people on the sales floor, but it's mostly like a single effort. Now, when you're talking about accounts, that's a whole different story. You've got to work with the drivers. You've got to work with your boss. As far as the GM, you've got to make sure that these people, you're not only reaching out to different people, but you're working with the people in your location to help them out. Now, I'm not saying that salespeople aren't integrated in what we do. What I'm saying, it's a little bit more of a team effort, especially in a driver situation where you're going to have to do team lifting, going out to customers' homes, and you might be bouncing off of each other as far as how to get something done or get it, a team setting. Like, I'll take this upstairs if you want to break down these boxes, or I'll set this up if you want to do this. There's a little bit more team associated with that. Or if you have an MIT, how do they handle it? And you want to kind of let them specify themselves so that you can kind of see where their focus is and where they're going. Now, of course, it doesn't mean they're not qualified. You just want to know what type of person you're dealing with and what makes them tick. What do they feel like they do best in?
I agree. And what you want to be careful about too is the politically correct answer response of, either or. I can work by myself or I can work with a team.
Break it down. Don't go with that answer. Make them break it down.
Yes, force them to even subconsciously choose. That's great. But if you have a preference, what would you rather do? You want to work by yourself or do you want to work with a team every day? You're going to do a little bit of both.
You want to know if you're 51% one way, I want to know which that 1%, which way does it go? And it doesn't disqualify your interviewer or your interviewee from anything. It lets you know what type of person they are and how to focus and train them differently than you might somebody else.
And placement. It doesn't necessarily, like you said, doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to bring them into the company, but now maybe you were interviewing them for a specific position and this question or this whole interview makes you go, man, this person would actually be great for this position.
Or this location, or this division, or, you might be hiring for, let's say, a driver in one position. You find out they're just account manager material. It's really not going to work in that position as far as a driver. So let me find another place in the company to put them because it's somebody you don't want to let go of.
Absolutely. So, okay. So you asked number 2, or independent worker or better team. They answer that question. What do you immediately follow up with?
Number 3 is, what skills have you acquired that make you a great candidate for this position?
And what is a skill? What do you mean by skill?
Skill is something that I'm good at. So, if I have a skill, I might be skilled at building. I might have a building skill. I might have a better affinity for driving. And when I say that, I just have a better way of, I know the streets better. I know how to get to point A, point B, and point C easier, faster. I know how to deal with computers a little bit better. Maybe I have a little bit of a computer background in fixing or repairing. Maybe I know how to network things together. So maybe if the printer is out and it needs to be connected, I know a little bit about wiring. I know a little bit about, the switches. I know a little about the internet and how the Wi-Fi works. Those skills are something that doesn't necessarily mean that I have a doctorate in it, but it does mean that I've acquired these along the way that would make me a little bit more useful in the position that you're looking to put me in.
And I think in the RTO, what we are looking for, what everybody should be looking for, is individual applicants with people skills. I think that's a must, people skills. I think the intelligence of being mechanically inclined is a plus because, of course, we have services and, a lot of us are looking for that guy or girl that just knows how to tinker, knows how to build stuff, or, because we have driver positions, we have service positions. But I think majority, we want to make sure everybody has those people skills because no matter what, everyone's going to be dealing with a customer at one point.
People skills is actually a great thing to say, and I'm glad you said that because sometimes we take the position that they were in for granted, or sometimes we take it as a not important. And I'm not saying that it happens in every situation. Sometimes we take entry-level positions and don't give it the importance that it deserves. Like, let's say that we have a young person and they're coming in from a fast food, or they're coming in from a remedial job. But sometimes those jobs are physically more demanding, and it's a lot more in your face when it comes to the customer base. And when you have somebody who's used to dealing with 100 different people a day, that might be a better situation than somebody who's not really good face to face with people. Maybe I'm in drive-through, and my core thing is to say, I'm going to give everybody the best customer interaction that I can within the 30 seconds or 45 seconds or 2 minutes that they're there. And you got to take that into account when you're talking about people skills. That is a great skill to have. If you're going to have people that can go out there and talk to people that they don't know, when somebody comes in and you don't know who they are, to be able to go up and say hi confidently, to be able to talk about yourself and the company that you have or you're in confidently, that is a great skill to have. So people skills, I'm glad you said that. It's a great skill.
So we learned a little bit about them. We know whether they're an independent worker or a team member. You found out some skills that they possess. What else do you think we need to ask?
Now we got to find out the qualifications they have.
Boom.
Have you gone out and you've really, I can say I have let's say a Microsoft certification. I have an Adobe certification. I have something that says I am qualified to do this by standards set by somebody else. So the skills say, yeah, I can tinker. Yeah, I can drive. Yeah, I can paint. I can do this. But this qualification says I'm guaranteed to give you the best result because I'm tested and qualified to do it.
So I'm going to throw you a little curveball question. How can an applicant produce qualifications for people skills?
Now, people skills is going to be a very different type of situation. So you're going to want a qualification in maybe public speaking. Have they taken classes in public speaking through a community college? Have they done it in the previous workplace that they've had? So maybe as a reference, you can call the previous employer and say, hey, they said that they would train her for, the new people that came in. How many people would they train? Oh, well, every 2 weeks they would be a class of maybe 20 people, and they would sit down with these people that they don't know and say, hey, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. That's a people skill that you can use, but then the qualification is somebody saying, yes, they've done this. Yes, they've done it well, or yes, they haven't done it well. But the idea is to check on those qualifications, and especially if you have, like, let's say a Microsoft certification, or let's say that you have a mechanic. It's crazy enough to say, but I've had mechanics as drivers, and either they got burnt out or they don't want to do it. Well, you can get certified for that as well. You can take vocational school for that. Sometimes you have those people that network. They can do networking. Networking is something that can be qualified through a local school, or let's say a community college, or anything. Especially when you're talking about people skills, you want to know what they've done and somebody to verify it. And those qualifications are like hands down gold.
Exactly. And I'm glad you hit that topic of references, because for me, I know when I'm interviewing, that's their qualification. You're telling me you're a great leader, you're a great manager, you're great at time management, you're a salesman, you're telling me all this great stuff that I want to hear. And sometimes that's hard to get qualifications. I mean, not everybody's taking a speech class or a management class, but what reference? Who's going to back you up? And someone of a respectable position as well, not your buddy that you worked with, side by side. What about a supervisor? What about a manager? What about a regional, or even an owner directly? Someone to validate and say, oh yeah, that guy Pete, I would hire him in a second. I actually try to get him to come back, blah, blah, blah. Like, you want that reference is the qualification of what they are saying their skills they have.
Absolutely. So after you're going through number 4, what qualifications do they have? Then sometimes you want to go into, yeah, you do this great. I know you do it great. I can verify you do it great. But then you go into number 5. What is your biggest area of opportunity?
Let's take a quick break.
Hey everyone, it's Pete Shau here from the RTO Show podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space. Wow Brands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing. And let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wow Brands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wow Brands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too.
Yeah. I know that's a question. It's a hard question to answer because no applicant wants to reveal a burden or a weakness. Everybody's coming in, again, with the mindset that I'm going to give you the best impression. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best candidate. I'm going to be a rock star. You don't have to worry about me being late. You know, I'm always on time. I never call out. I'm a gung-ho teamwork person, et cetera, et cetera. You know, you already know all the great stuff they're going to say, but everybody has an area of opportunity that I like to call it. I don't really like call it a weakness. I like to call it an area of opportunity because you can always improve on that area of opportunity. So I always do like to ask that question. I like to see what they have to say. I even, to make them feel, again, try to make them more comfortable, I give them my own personal reference. I tell them, listen, you can ask my supervisors, my coworkers. I could tell you what my area of opportunity is organization. I am the most unorganized individual you will ever meet. And as a district manager,
say it ain't so, Danny. Say it ain't so.
As a store manager, I mean, that is one thing, you know, get Larry Pivot on the phone. He'll tell you that, you know, don't look at my desk. You know, don't look at my desk. You know, it's a clutter. It's clutter everywhere. Now I know where everything is at, but don't touch my stuff. You see my office, Pete. Like, I got papers on the floor. Like, I have it like a little circle, you know, like my own little choo-choo train going on. Like, hey, those are my reports. So
It's the most organized, unorganized desk you've ever seen.
But, all right, that's an area of opportunity that I continuously, daily need to work on to be better at in my position. I'm still in my position. I think I'm successful in my position, but that's a flaw. That's a weakness. And I try to use that as an example. So when I'm interviewing applicants, they feel more comfortable and willing to be like, well, I guess if I had to narrow down, I probably need to work on this, or I need to work on that. And, you know, a lot of the answers I've gotten, and again, I feel like it's a politically correct answer, but I've heard all these kind of answers. Well, I feel like I'm too hard on myself. So that's something I need to work on. Okay. But I'm looking for the nitty gritty. I'm looking for the P's and Q's, you know.
Cut through the fluff. If somebody's giving you the fluff answer, cut through the fluff. Again, you always want to use the personal approach. And when I say personal, I don't mean get personal. I mean, when you, like you said, you give them an opportunity to see who you are, to say, hey man, I'm not perfect either. I'm flawed too. I'm not going to sit here in front of you as somebody who's trying to interview going, you have to be as perfect as I am. No, we're all humans. And you cut through that, you know, hey, yeah, I understand. It's one of those politically correct answers that you're going to give your interviewer when you say that. Give me the truth. And you have to know when they're giving you that fluff answer and when you really want to get to the truth. Oh, you know, I'm too hard on my... Really? Why is that?
Right.
Why do you feel like you're too hard on yourself? Is it because, you know, you have deadlines to meet and you can't meet them? Or what is it? You know, cut straight through that.
Yes.
You don't want them to really sit there and go, oh, you know, because what? I mean, I really want to get to know who you are. This interview isn't just about filling a position. It's filling a position with the right candidate that's going to make you successful and make me successful. It's a two-way street. It can't be just good for you, and then for us, it's not good. Or it can't be just us, you know, good for us, and then you come on in 6 months, you want to go somewhere else. So you really want to cut through the fluff and get to those little answers like, I work too hard.
I like to immediately do a 180. Question number 6 that I immediately follow up with is, well, what's your greatest strength? What is your biggest accomplishment, or what's something that you just feel super confident about? And of course, I like, you know, this one always tends to be a little bit an easy question for applicants. And they always, I can see it that they feel like they know what the right answer is. And a lot of the times the right answer isn't even the answer I'm looking for. What I'm really looking for as an interviewer is your confidence. I want to know, are you actually confident in yourself to produce the results? Or are you interviewing and hoping you're trying to say the right answer?
Well, you open up that door with number 5, right? When you're talking about your biggest area of opportunity, they're looking at you like, man, I really don't want to say something that's going to disqualify me from this position, right? So when you break them down, get down to the nitty gritty, they're like, oh man, God, I don't want another one of those questions. And then when you immediately follow up with, what's your greatest attribute or strength? Oh man, then the lights come on. Oh no, I do this well. I do that well. You know, this is what happened back in 2005, whenever it is that these people, you know, had to start their working thing. And it's like, hey man, I've done this, I can do this well. So you kind of get that door kind of wedged open. And then with your number 6, you open it up. What's your greatest attribute? Okay, yeah, let me tell you what I can do. And it really kind of gets them involved. And it, like you said, if you can sit back and let them tell that story, they're going to open up to you, and it'll give you a lot more insight into who you have sitting in front of you.
Yeah, because especially if you're interviewing for a sales position, you need a confident person in that position. You need somebody that, you know, hey, let me learn the system, but don't worry. You need that confident individual to be like, oh, I'll sell to anybody. You know, I'll sell ice to an Eskimo. Just put me out there, coach. Give me the ball. In that position specifically, you kind of want a little bit of that confident a little bit arrogant maybe, but then it can maybe humble them and say, all right, well, we're going to put you to the test. Make sure you back up what you're saying. So,
well, here's the thing, too, is in between these questions, don't feel afraid. This might be a great time if they say something that's very outgoing and it sounds very good. Do a role play. Listen to see how are they on the fly? Yeah. Because the truth is you're sitting behind a desk, somebody calls and you answer it, whether before we open or, it's quiet, or it could be with a lot of people there. And somebody's going to call you and have a question that you're just not prepared for. That's okay because that's life. You're in the middle of making credit calls and somebody calls you and says, that one clearance item that I saw, what color is it? How is it shaded? You got to get up and you got to run over there and you got to make a little bit of small talk. That's okay. So when you put them on the fly, this is a good time to see how do you handle some pressure, and not in a way that, I'm not trying to disqualify you. What I'm trying to say is when you're here and I'm here and you just gave me all your greatest attributes and all your greatest strengths, let's test one out and see how really confident you are in that situation. But then again, we have to understand that as we've been doing this for years and years, it might be a little bit easier for us. So as you're doing that and you're putting somebody on that role, make sure that you take that into account, that they're probably a little bit nervous and they have a lot going on and they're kind of worried about how they're going to act in front of you. Take that in consideration when you're looking to fill that position.
So what's another qualified question you could ask them going into number 7? What's another qualified question you could ask them, Pete?
What is the highest position you've ever professionally held in your career? With that is the idea to get them to describe their duties, describe their efficiency in the role, let them open up about it. Again, a lot of this is questions that aren't meant to be answered. When you ask questions, you want to state it in a way that's not so closed. You want open-ended questions because you want them to be filled in. You don't want to ask a lot of yes and no questions like, were you always on time? Yes, because then that's it. You're not going to get an answer that you're looking for. You're not going to get them to open up and tell you exactly what's going on. When you give them close-ended questions, you're going to get a close-ended interview. So you got to give them open-ended questions. So what is your highest position that you've ever held professionally in your career? They're going to give you an answer. But you want to get them to describe their duties, describe what they did, describe the efficiency of it, or did they manage other people? Did they get a position where it wasn't managing other people? So you're using a close-ended question to just find out exactly what they were. And then you want to open it up to, well, talk to me about that. What made you so proficient in that role? How did you get to that role? And what did you do?
So you get that information and you find out what their last role was and how the duties and responsibilities, and how as you're talking and interviewing, you're mentally taking notes. Oh, this person has the experience of management, sales, or collections, whatever the case may be. Then you can actually ask more direct questions related to that specific position, because now you have something to back up on it and say, oh, well, I know about that position too. Have you ever done this? Do you understand this lingo? Et cetera, et cetera. And then almost like make sure that they are being truthful and honest with their answer of the positions they've held. Again, that also goes back to the references to back them up that, yeah, they've been in this position, et cetera, et cetera. After that question, what I like to ask them next is, what has been your most positive and negative management experience? And I specifically want them to tell me one of each, a negative experience and a positive experience. And what I'm really trying to find out here with that question is what kind of manager or supervisor they prefer to work for. Because you might have an ideal candidate, and let's say their negative experience, hypothetically, let's just say, negative experience is my previous supervisor used to micromanage me. You're interviewing them for a store manager who happens to micromanage. That might not be a good fit. Even though they're an ideal candidate, you might not want to put them with that manager because it's not going to mesh well, it's not going to be a good relationship. And I think if you are the direct supervisor and you're interviewing, this also will give you an insight. Well, how do I need to manage this individual? How am I going to motivate them and incentivize them and coach them if I bring them on board? This is one of the great questions I do love asking and seeing what they have to say. Do you agree?
No, absolutely. And then, on the other side of that is one of your most positive. Then one of the most negative is also an important thing. Did it come from an employee that you used to have where maybe you're really good at solving problems and that employee just had an issue with it and you really kind of had to break it down? Is it, when you're talking about a negative management experience, there's so much that can go with that. You can find out what kind of candidates you really have. Are you set to working 40 hours? Do you know that this might be a salaried position? Or are you so used to working 60 hours or used to working overtime? This is only a 40-hour position. You kind of bring it into a lot of different circumstances, and an employee interaction can be one of them. How do they face adversity? I was supposed to have a delivery that came in at 7 that was going to supply everything for that day. It didn't come in at 7 in the morning. It kind of came in at 10. It reset the entire day. It was very difficult. I ended up quitting. The idea is you want to know how they handle it. You want to know how they're looking at the situation. You want to know their ability to overcome the situations or not overcome it. Because like you said, you're looking for the greatness, but you're looking for the shortcomings to pair them in a position or with a manager or with a location that's going to suit them best for that success. And you have to know the good and the bad. And it's a great question. So your most positive and most negative management experience can really kind of determine what kind of person you have there. And it could be, it doesn't have to be a management experience if they've never been a manager. It could be as an employee. What was your most positive experience and what was your most negative experience as a cashier, as a bagger? Or it could be you used to run a store or a location or multiple stores and locations. What was and you felt one of the most difficult situations? Because sometimes we leave and then we're like, oh man, I should have said this other one because that was probably, hey, you're on the spot. I get it. What do you feel is one of your most best situations and not so best, so we can talk about it? Don't be afraid to talk about it. That leads us directly into number 9. Why did you leave your current position, or why are you going to leave your current position? I mean, what do you think? What do you think they're going to say?
Most common answers is 1, more money. 2, I'm having a difficulty getting along with my direct supervisor. 3, travel. 4, time.
Definitely good reasons as to why to leave your position, but it also gives you as an interviewer kind of a what somebody will accept and not accept. And we're not talking about, they will accept being badgered or anything like that. No, you always want to treat your employees with respect, but they have limitations. And sometimes those limitations are based on time away from their family. Sometimes their limitations are based on how much time that they can put out for the money that they're making, right? I don't mind putting it out 40 hours or 50 hours, but I have to make this much for a living wage because I have these responsibilities. Or it's too far, I can't go that far. And sometimes they'll inadvertently answer questions that you might have about what position they can go into, the distance, what a good job title for them would be, considering that they will not do this or they will not do that, or they're really good with stress environments, but they're not good with maybe direct contact with customers because that's just something that they're not really good at. It kind of gives you a quick snapshot of their limitations and what they will and will not do. It also gives you an opportunity to take that answer and go back to a previous employer and say, hey, now, full disclosure, some employers will tell you, some employers will not. Of course, you have to follow the state laws as to what they can tell you. As far as the HR department, how long were they there? Were they on time all the time? Were they responsible employees? And the fact that, they didn't crash a car through a window or something like that. And sometimes that's all they'll tell you. Sometimes they'll tell you a little bit more, but this just gives you that feedback, that knowledge.
Another thing recently that I've been hearing a lot, because I've been interviewing a lot of manager and trainees or store managers, and I'm being told that a lot of the reason why managers are leaving other companies is because they were promised an incentive and it wasn't followed through. Of course, always 3 sides to a story. I say that all the time. His, hers, and the truth. And so you might only get one side of that, but that is something I am hearing a lot lately. And what I do is, for my personal references, then I make sure, okay, if I am going to make an offer, put it on paper. Let's sign it. Therefore, there is no he say, she say. It's, hey, this is what I'm offering you. And I know, Pete, you do a really good job of this. Anytime you make an offer, you make a nice little letterhead, very detailed. You have 14 days to reply. This will be your salary. This is your incentive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, I do that too. Sometimes I do a more, unorthodox. Sometimes I even write it on a piece of paper and just sign it, but boom, picture, but it's signed document. Like, I want to make sure that my integrity is never questioned. If you're going to leave me, it's not going to be because my integrity is going to be for any other reason. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think we both bring it to the table. Listen, I want to hold you accountable as an employee. Hold me as accountable as an employer. If I tell you that I'm going to do something, you absolutely have a right to say, hey, man, I don't mind doing what you're asking me to do, but I also want to get back in return what you told me I was going to get. And I think that's a fair swing on both ways. Something that I like to follow up that question with, and it's not an extra question, just kind of follow up with that question, is if you left for any other reason than, listen, I moved a different state or something like that. But if you left, one of my biggest questions to them is, did you have a conversation with that manager or with that employer or with that supervisor as to why you were unhappy before you left? Did you give them an opportunity to change what you thought was wrong?
That's a great question. And depending on their answer, will definitely give you an insight of who you might be potentially hiring. Because like you just said, I want to be held accountable as an employer. We hold our employees accountable. I want to know if an employee is upset with me, if they're disgruntled for whatever reason. Let's talk about it. Let's have an open door conversation. Maybe it's something I can work on, something I can change, or maybe it is a take it or leave it situation. I mean, sometimes that happens, but at least there's closure and there's that authentic, genuine knowing, not the what ifs. Like, I wonder what happened or shoulda, woulda, coulda. No, it's, it was just time to part ways because we couldn't come to an agreement.
Well, sometimes we have to hold ourselves accountable to, sometimes we hear things and we're just like, this is the way it is. This is the policies. No, that's not the way it is anymore. Nowadays, you have to be in tune to the people that you have working for you. And you have to remember, if you expect to get a lot out of them, they have to get a lot out of you. You have to be open with them and you want them to be open with you. And as long as there's a mutual respect in there, a professionalism, you have to be able to have that open door that says, hey, I need to sit down with you. Okay, I'm going to make, even if you have to put it off, I'll make 5 minutes for this. Just let me finish this up, or let's create a time frame, or let's set an appointment and then sit down and not be so quick to cut them off, not be so quick to say, well, this is how things are because these are the policies and this is what we need, but to really kind of sit down and genuinely listen to the problem that that person is having. That doesn't always mean that you have the answer to fix it, because it might literally be you have to do this because of a health standard. You might have to do this because if you don't do it in this order, it's going to create a chaos later on down the road, or it might be some legal term, or it might be some, as in a doctor's office, it might be something that you cannot pass up. Well, in rent to own, there are certain things that we can and certain things that we can't do. There are certain policies that we have to enforce and certain things that we can't. But if you sit down and genuinely listen to them and you give them that opportunity, you will have people that will do one or two things. They'll stay a little bit longer, or a new term that came up, they won't be quietly quitting. And that's something that if you guys are doing interviews and you have a lot coming up, quietly quitting is an important phrase that you want to look up. And tell you right now, it's people who are doing just the bare minimum to get by. And to be successful in any type of business, you're going to have to go above and beyond. That's usually how it goes. Or do your job extremely well and be proficient at it. So on top of giving them clear standards, they have to have this set of rules and this set of guidelines that they need to do. And if you want somebody to just sit back and let the car coast, man, close your door. Don't be open to ideas. Don't listen to them. And let me tell you, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get into it, what you put into it. And I think the interviewer also needs to know that, hey, did you talk to them? Because if not, you can talk to me. You can say something to me as an employer, or my GMs know that if something needs to be said, you can go to them and you can say, this is what's going on. Again, you can't always fix the problem, but you have to be open to fixing a problem.
The nail right on the head. So what I like to wrap up with, especially right after that question, why are you leaving or why did you leave? This is something I like to ask every candidate. In fact, I just like to ask random people as well, because there is no wrong answer what I'm about to ask, but it does give me an intuitive insight on who you are in your current state of life. I call this the triangle of success. I know, Pete, you've heard this a lot of times. You've heard me say this to a lot of people. I've asked this question 20 times in the past week with every interviewer I've had. So the triangle of success, you have a point on each triangle, right? And you have money, you have time, and you have happiness. So that's the triangle of success. That's the dream. That's what every American is trying to capture. They want all three. That's the trifecta. But I can only guarantee you two. What two do you pick?
That's a trick question. Can you move to the next one? That's not A, B, C. That's a D. Goes to all the above. It's one of those things that will also give you an opportunity, because that's a great question. And it doesn't mean right, wrong. It doesn't mean that you don't want to hire this person. What it does is it lets you see, are they a younger person where they have more money and time to put into the position, where they want to do a little bit extra, they want to do a little bit of extra work in the sense that I want to grow in this company, I want to grow in my position? Or do you have somebody that's a little bit more tenured and they have a family at home and they're good at their job, but they don't want to put in the 60-hour work week because they have kids to raise. They have somebody to take to school. Their wife's or husband is in school at night and they're trying to help out with that, or they're just making ends meet, but their working 60 hours is behind them. It gives you an opportunity to judge that person, and where they might be as far as what you're looking for. And again, what they're looking for, because you always want to marry those two together.
9 out of 10 times, people always choose happiness as one of them, and then everything is split between money and time. That's the most common answer. Very recently, I did have an applicant, very witty individual, try to convince me. So he chose money and time. And I go, okay, so you don't care about being happy? And his response was, well, if I have money and time, I am happy. And I go, You'd be surprised. I know some people that have money and have time, but they're just not happy at home. I mean, they go to bed by themselves, empty house.
That is a seriously philosophical question right there, buddy. Like, you could probably talk about those three things. We could have a podcast on those three things alone.
It's true. And again, the great thing is there is no wrong answer. It's what's right for you in this moment in your current life, because your answer can change as time goes by. Right now, your answer might be money and happiness, but then 2 years from now, it's like, I've stacked some bread. I got some savings. Money's not a priority. I'd rather have time and happiness right now. Or maybe right now, because, you're 36, married with 3 kids, it's a time for you. Like, I need that time and I want to be happy and doing what I do love and at home. And I know I could probably make more money if I worked 70 hours a week and was hustling all the time, but I just don't have the time for that. So that's something I could do later on in the future. There's no right or wrong answer, but I do love asking that question. I love hearing the responses. I love seeing it puzzles them. Wow, I got to choose two. Like, it's a tough question, but it also, as an employer, an interviewer, someone that I'm about to hire, it does tell me a couple of things. It also tells me what I'm going to be able to negotiate with, because I know what's a priority for you. I know what motivates you. I know how to incentivize you. So I think it's a great question as an interviewer. So that way you kind of get more insight on the individual you're speaking with.
So that is our 10 questions for new interviewees that will get you to kind of get them to open up, and to get you to understand and know them a little bit better. Kind of puts you on the spot, kind of puts them on the spot, and it gives you some questions to really rely on as you're going through the process. And I think these will also help you down the road to know, is this the right person for the position? How to, like you said, how to motivate them. And I think it'll help you, because coming from a previous episode, to retain or to replace, when you have had to make the decision to, let's say, replace, this is a good way to put somebody in there that will fill those shoes nicely. Now, of course, it'll never take away from experience and training and all that, but this is the best way that we've found are some great tips to get the right person in the right spot. Now, there are some additional things that I think that this provides. The first one for me is, as you're looking at the situation, as you're asking the questions, as you're sitting there with somebody, it's not always what they're saying, because sometimes it's what they're not saying. Sometimes we put a light on some place to not shine it on another. And it doesn't always mean it's a negative situation. It doesn't mean it's always a negative thing, but you want to really listen for what they are saying, and as equally what they're not saying. That's definitely going to help you out in any situation.
You actually taught me that. I've learned that doing dual interviews with you, which I've learned a lot. And that's another suggestion I would make is, especially if you're just now learning to interview, or even if you are experienced in interview, it doesn't matter. When you do a dual interview with somebody else, you'll get another insight, because one-on-one, you're doing one-on-one, so I'm just listening and I'm developing my own thoughts and opinions of what's going on. But then if there's somebody else in the room, after that interviewee leaves, you can look to that other individual that was there with you. Hey, what did you think of this person? And you'll be surprised how they caught things that you didn't catch, and vice versa. Or they heard things that you didn't hear, or things they did not say that you didn't catch. And I mean, I think that's a great tip. And again, it's not what you say, it's also what they're not saying.
So never undermine a peer interview. Never undermine somebody co-interviewing with you, because as you're intently listening to the person in front of you, you can have somebody who's not actually intently listening with all that, with the intent to respond or the intent to bring them on, but they're looking for the other aspects of it. And you can go back and forth on that as well. And I think it's definitely helped us out in the past, doing some interviews that we've talked to people together and we're like, I saw this. Yeah, I saw this. Oh, well, it might be a great fit, or it might not be a fit at all. And I think that leads into the second tip after the questions. As you're being an interviewee, go with your gut.
Go with your gut.
When you've done it for a long time, go with your gut. You've got to hone the interviewing skill. That is a skill. Now, I don't know if you could ever be qualified unless you get into HR and you actually have this ability, but interviewing properly is a skill, and doing it more often is very important, because that's a skill that you always want to hone. You want to keep your blade sharp on that. Even if you don't need somebody, you always want to be interviewing for your fellow stores, for the company. And do you have a retain or replace situation like we talked about in previous podcasts? This is an opportunity to make that good foot forward. So always go with your gut. And my last thought process is, if they don't give their current employer a 2-week notice, they're not going to give you a 2-week notice. To me, I don't care how hard I want to hire somebody, how much I want to get somebody in, no matter how good they are for the position. If they tell me, Pete, I want to be here, I want to do it, but I got to give 2 weeks notice, I'm going to honor that all the way, because that means that I'm not going to take that away from them. I'm not going to take that away from another employer, but it also gives them the respect to say, hey, if I'm going somewhere, I'm going to give you a notice. And I respect that all day. How many times have we had no notice?
No, well, and and that's another great thought process. And to add to that, I'm sitting here and thinking, here's a little side tip for that. I don't want to use the word or phrase trick question, but ask the applicant, can you start Monday? I need you Monday. Can you start Monday? And see if they're willing to even break their own moral code to get the job, or are they going to stay with their integrity, say, no, Pete, I got to give it 2 week notice. I would love to, but now if they let me go, I'll come in, but I got to give them the notice first. And if they have one, and then now you're dealing with an honest person that will give you that same respect.
What we're doing now is just kind of going over the things that we thought were the best questions to ask, not the only questions to ask. So you guys got to remember that if there's anything you want to add to it, absolutely tweak it. If you want to let us know what it is your thoughts are, or some questions that you have that we didn't cover that were great to add to maybe a follow-up podcast or something that we can put on the website, please let us know. It's Pete at the RTOshowpodcast.com or Danny at the RTOshowpodcast.com. Email us, let us know what's going on. If you have any great questions or tips, add it to it. We'll go over them one more time. Number 1, tell me about yourself. Tell me who you are and what's going on and a little bit more about you. Number 2, are you an independent worker or do you perform better in a team setting? Number 3, what skills do you have or have acquired that make you a good fit for this position? Number 4, what qualifications do you have that you can bring to the table or that you are bringing to the table? You've got number 5, what is your biggest area of opportunity to improve? Then quickly follow that up with number 6, what is your greatest attribute or strength that you're bringing to the table? That's something that you always want to make sure that you get them to answer, because it really gets them to open up. Number 7, what is the highest position you've ever held professionally in your career, and describe the duties in that position. Then make sure you ask them, number 8, what has been your most positive or negative management or employee experience? Number 9, why did you leave or going to leave your current position? And what do you feel that could have been done better? Did you talk to your employer about what you thought was wrong? Then number 10, Danny's triangle of success, money, time, or happiness. That almost sounds like a rap song, but money, time, or happiness, to get them to really understand at the end. And then during the process, always look at what they're not saying as much as you look at what they're saying. Go with your gut. And if they don't give a notice, they won't give you a notice.
We are taking orders on RTO shirts, so if you want to be part of the RTO family, please email us. Pete already provided the emails, and let us know your shirt size, what color you would want. We will be having pricing when you email us on our website here shortly. Looking forward to the RTO family to grow and love the support. Please click the link, follow us, subscribe, make sure you don't miss an episode. And
before we go, I just want to mention that APRO, the Association of Progressive Rental Organizations, are doing their part to help. Visit them at www.rtohq.org on your mobile device or on your computer. Here's a quick walkthrough how to get to their special funds page, which they're helping out with a lot of things that are going on right now. There are 3 lines on top. You click on them, you click on the foundation button, and then you can apply or donate to some of the funds that they have, which includes the RTO, or the Relief to Our Employees Disaster Relief Fund. This fund has distributed more than $430,000 to help those RTO families affected by natural disasters like those affected by the recent hurricanes that tore through the U.S. and its territories. If you can spare some money, please donate. If you are in need, let them know by applying for help. Remember, it's the RTO Employee Disaster Relief Fund through APRO at www.rtohq.org.
this is the RTO Show with Danny and Pete.